All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishwadaya Krishna Shmari Bharijam Prabhu Namane Namo Vishwadaya Krishna Shmari Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste. Saraswati Devi Guru Bani Pacharane Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pashat Chadisha Tarane. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we're reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Okay, must be up here somewhere. Chapter 9, Canto 9, Liberation, Chapter 15, text number 40. Is that right? 41. Okay. Ragyo mudabhishiktasya vado brahmavadhad guru tirtha samsevaya chamho jahyanga chutta chetanaha Ragyo mudabhishiktasya vado brahmavadhad guruhu tirtha samsevaya chamho jayanga chutta chetanaha Ragyo mudabhishiktasya vadho brahmavadhad guruhu tirtha samsevaya chamho jahyanga chutta chetanaha. Ragya of the king, Murda Abhishiktasya, who is noted as the emperor. Vadha, the killing. Brahmavadhat, than killing a Brahmana. Guru, more severe. Tirtha samsevaya, by worshipping the holy places. Also, amha, the sinful act. Jahi, wash out. Anga, oh my dear son. Achyuta chetanaha, being fully Krishna conscious. My dear son, killing a king who is an emperor is more severely sinful than killing a Brahmana. But now, if you become Krishna conscious and worship the holy places, you can atone for this great sin. Thank you. Purport: one who fully surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is freed from all sins. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha yeshyami. From the very day or moment he fully surrenders to Krishna, to Sri Krishna, even the most sinful person is freed. Nonetheless, as an example, Jamadagni advised his son, Parasurama, to worship the holy places, because an ordinary person cannot immediately surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is advised to go from one holy place to another to find saintly persons and thus gradually be released from sinful reactions. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 15th chapter of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, entitled Parasurama, the Lord's Warrior Incarnation. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmaye Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadaha Mahiyam Tadati Swapadantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Sri Gurum Tinatavinam. Aham, tvam. If you surrender to me, Krishna says, Sava papebhyo moksha yishyami. You'll be freed from sarva pap, all sinful reactions, all sins and their reactions. Moksha yishyami. And Prabhupada says here, from the very day or moment he fully surrenders to Krishna, even the most sinful person is freed. So, Rupa Goswami recommends we honour and respect all devotees. Krishneti yasya giritam manasa driyeta. We should offer mental respects to anybody who chants Hare Krishna. Chants the name of Krishna. Krishneti yas giritam manasa driyeta. So we respect them with the mind, mentally. Dikshasti chet pranatibis bhajantam isham. We offer our pranams, or we bow down actually, to the devotees who have taken diksha. Because it's understood that a devotee who's taken diksha is a strict sadhaka. They're a strict sadhaka. So they're to be offered all respects, and especially in the context of this statement, that if they've surrendered to Krishna, and how do we surrender to Krishna? We surrender to Krishna Guru, Ado Guru Parasurama. In the beginning we take shelter of a guru. Primarily within ISKCON, it means taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada and following Prabhupada's instructions explicitly and implicitly. So those external activities and also the implications that arise from surrendering to the spiritual master. And in order to effectively execute the process of bhakti, one does so under the guidance of the spiritual master, the teachings of the guru. Right? So for us, that means following the orders of our Founder-Acharya, the preeminent Siksha Guru, the person who established ISKCON and the spiritual culture that permeates all of what we do effectively. And there are many aspects of that practice, as is described in the 64 items of devotional service in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in the Nectar of Devotion, of which Guru Parasurama is the first. Ado Guru Parasurama. And that's surrendering to Krishna, right? Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha yeshyami ma suchaha. And so, as a consequence then, all of the devotees, regardless of whatever their background might be, if they've taken to the process of bhakti, that process, then they're moksha, liberated, right? Liberated persons. And so therefore, dikshasti chet pranati bis bhajanta misham. We offer our obeisances to the devotees. We avoid offending the devotees. No? We work cooperatively together, as is requested by Srila Prabhupada. So Jamadagni here is instructing Parasurama, right? And he's telling him, he's advising him that killing Kartavirya Arjuna and his army was unnecessary. Unnecessary. Right? Because the offense that he'd committed, the stealing of the Kamadhenu, was forgivable. Right? It was forgivable offense. And in the previous, actually the word, oh no, it's in the previous. Chaminam, which is a quality of the Brahmanas. Right? So Jamadagni is a Brahmana. Interesting to note. Jamadagni is a Brahmana. The son of Richika, the son of Richika and Satyavati. Right? And Parasurama is the grandson. And as we've discussed or read in earlier verses, Richika's wife, Satyavati, had been pretty much, I wouldn't say cursed, but she offended her husband. And you know, it's interesting that Richika begot children in his wife and his mother-in-law, which is, to us that's from the culture that we're brought up in, that's radical. Right? But anyway, that's how it was. But there's not a lot of description as to how that circumstance came about. But Rishika, because he's a Brahmana, performed a yajna, right? And oblations were created to be consumed by his wife and his mother-in-law, her mother. Right? But her mother, Satyavati's mother, it appears, became envious of her daughter. It appears. It's not stated, but that's what it looks like, right? And disregarding the instructions of Rishika, she requested the daughter, please give me your oblations, thinking they must be better, right? Must be better. But what had happened was that Rishika had intoned the mantras so that the mother-in-law would get, or the mother would get, there obviously wasn't a law forbidding you to marry or to have, to be connected to your mother-in-law. Right, in this day and age, that would be considered a bit odd, right? But anyway, so the oblations for the mother were to have a Kshatriya son, and the oblations for the wife was to have a Brahmana son. But the mother wanted a swap, and so there was a swap, and Rishika was very disturbed by that, obviously, because both of the two women hadn't followed his instructions. So it was reversed. The mother got a son who was a Brahmana, and the wife got a son. Well, as it turned out, she pleaded with her husband, please don't let my son become a Kshatriya. But, and by his Brahma Tejas, I guess, he was able to bless Satyavati that her son would be Brahminical, not a Kshatriya. And so that's Jamadagni. Jamadagni. But the grandson, now Jamadagni had many sons, right? Many sons, it's mentioned here. But the youngest was Parasurama, right? And Parasurama, as we see here, he was a ferocious Kshatriya. It didn't take much to wind him up. It appears, if that's okay to say. Because Jamadagni was a great devotee. Even Rishika is a great devotee, right? Or certainly Brahminical, right? And so we see in the character, it's mentioned here, in the character of Jamadagni was Brahminical qualities, right? And one of those qualities, the quality by which he is mentioned for here, was Chantir, right? Chantir. What does Chantir mean? Samodamastapasocham Chantirajavameva cha Jnanam Vijnanam Ashtikyam Brahma Kama Svabhavajam. What's Chantir? Huh? Peaceful. No, that's Shanti. So what is Chantir? What did he say? You have to speak loudly. Shama, yeah, what's that? Forgiving. Yes, it's described. Or in that verse, Prabhupada translates it as tolerant. Right? And here in the previous verse, chaminam, which means by tolerance. By tolerance. By the quality of tolerance, one is then forgiving. And so the translation here is under the Brahmanas who are so forgiving. Right? So Jamanagni said to Parasurama, killing the soldiers of Kartavirya Arjuna and also Kartavirya Arjuna himself was overreach, considering the offence. And what was the offence? The offence was they stole his cow. It's an offence. Stealing somebody's cow is an offence. Don't do it, okay? Don't steal people's cows. But still, Jamadagni, because he's Brahminical by nature, he tells Parasurama, forgive Kartavirya Arjuna and his followers for killing a cow. So the question may arise, how come Parasurama is famous for killing all of the Kshatriyas 17 times? Right? When he's instructed by his father that forgive them. So what happened? What happened between the stealing of the cows and the killing of the Kshatriyas 21 times? All descendants of Kartavirya Arjuna. Right? Well, we know what happened before. It's the curse, if you like. Well, let's call it a curse. It's not really, but Richika Maharaj, in this case Guru Maharaj, right? Not Rishi Maharaj. He had ordained that Parasurama would be a ferocious Kshatriya. Right? As a consequence of Satyavati and her mother not following the order of the husband, or the father in this particular case, the father of both their children, the two sons, actually, they were brothers. Jamadagni, and I don't think the name of his brother is actually mentioned in the text here. Right? So this is very interesting, the context here of how Parasurama was then sent on pilgrimage. Right? There's a corollary or similar instance where Lord Balaram he killed Rama Mahashan Sutta. Right? With a blade of grass because he didn't stand up when he entered the arena. Offence. Mild offence, right, in one sense, not a big offence yet, because of what? What characteristic or what quality did Rama Mahashan Sutta demonstrate? Pride. And so he didn't stand up when Balaram appeared, the Adi Guru, so many reasons why you should stand up, because Balaram has appeared, right? So, somewhat of a minor offence. So, Lord Balaram just touched him with a blade of grass. Didn't take out a sword and chop off his head or anything. Just touched him with a blade of grass, poof, gone. And then all the sages said, oh no, alas, right? We've just given him the blessings for a long life and Okay, it went to his head a bit. Right. But now who's going to speak, give us, speak, give the knowledge, the Vedic knowledge. That's what he was there for. Very learned. But interesting, you see, learning should not give rise to pride. Very interesting. Learning should not give rise to pride. So, Balarama, as opposed to Parasurama, right? Parasu means chopper. So Chopper-Ram, Chopper-Ram as opposed to Balaram, the strong Ram. They're both pretty powerful. Like it says here, that Parasurama was killing people at the speed of the mind. Just... And then when he got tired, at the speed of the wind, which we can assume is like a hurricane, right? Still pretty fast. So, Balaram was, the sages were dismayed that Balaram had killed Rama Mahashansuda. And Balaram said, I can bring him back to life if you like. They said, no. If this is your desire, obviously. But of course then, the son of Rama Mahashansuda was then given the role of the speaker, of the chair, if you like, of the assembly. And then the sages said to Balaram, you should go to all of the holy places even though you don't need to go to the holy places for purification, but just to set an example for the others, you should go and visit the holy places, right? Which is the advice that Jamadagni is giving to Parasurama. And Prabhupada makes the point that here that the purpose of going to the holy places is not to take bath necessarily, but of course everybody does, right? It's auspicious to take a purifying snan in the tirtha pad, right? The places of pilgrimage. But Prabhupada makes a point in more than one place, and certainly here, that one goes to the holy places to meet the devotees. And then in the association of the devotees, one hears Matschita Matkata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Katayantascha Mamnityam Tusyanti Chara Manticha. There's great pleasure for the devotees to go and purify the consciousness. Matschita Matkata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam. The Katayantascha Mamnityam. The devotees like to talk about Krishna, and that way their mind, their actions, everything that they do is dedicated to remembering Krishna and serving Krishna. And so the recommendation is go to places where one can associate with the devotees. The devotees are so saintly that they even purify the places, the tirtha, right? The tirthas. All of the common people go to the tirthas to wash off their sinful reactions, but the devotees go there, and by the performance of their bhakti, they purify those places. So this is good. This is why we always respect the devotees. Right? Especially Dikshasti Chet Pranati Bis Bhajanta Misham. We offer our obeisances to the initiated devotees because they're purifying the whole creation. What to speak of just the holy places. So, and Prabhupada, it makes an interesting point here, because an ordinary person cannot immediately surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is advised to go from one holy place to another to find saintly persons and thus gradually be released from sinful reactions. Right? So for us, sacred places or holy places, wherever the devotees reside, effectively. Right? And we associate with the devotees for our purification and gradually be released. Although if one takes shelter of the spiritual master and follows the process of bhakti, then immediately one is released. Krishna says that, moksha yashyami ma suchaha. Do not fear. Right? So, what did happen to make Parasurama kill the Kshatriyas 21 times? Well, Kartavirya Arjuna and his followers killed Jamadagni. They killed Jamadagni. They were envious of Jamadagni. Had welcomed Kartavirya Arjuna and his entourage, and he'd looked after them, fed them, was a saintly sadhu, and they became envious of him, his opulence, which is a warning for the devotees. Don't become envious of others. Don't become envious of what others have got. Very dangerous. Get you in a lot of trouble. Matsarya, isn't it? One of the enemies of the mind. Kama, lobha, krodha, moha. Lobha, did I say lobha? Yep. Anyway, matsarya, enviousness. It's an enemy of the mind. So the Kshatriya, the Kartavirya Arjuna became envious of Jamadagni, and they wanted his cow, because from the cow comes what? Milk. And from milk comes butter. And from butter comes ghee. Right? So Prabhupada says this is why they wanted his cow, because from one cow came all opulence. Why cow protection is so important. But they became so envious that eventually they killed Jamadagni. Right? And that's a far more serious offence than just pinching the cow. Right? Far more serious offence. But effectively from enviousness. Not a good quality to have. And as a result of that, then, the killing of a Brahmana. Of course, we circumambulate Tulsi every day, and that relieves the sins of all sins, even the killing of a Brahmana. Right? But that doesn't mean you can kill Brahmanas. Then walk around Tulsi. Oh, everything's okay. Haribol. No, not at all. It's an offence, obviously. Commit offences to the devotees. This is our first instruction, is not to commit offences to the devotees. Otherwise, look what happens. Your whole dynasty is destroyed 21 times. Of course, that's unique because of the blessings, if you like, of Richika Maharaj to Satyavati, that her grandson would be a ferocious Kshatriya, not her son, Parasurama. Right? And of course, Parasurama is a Shakti-Avesha avatar. He appeared for that purpose. So, you know, when there's adharma, what is it? Yada yada hi dharmasya. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. When there's a rise in irreligion or irreligiosity, then Krishna says, I appear, right, to establish religious principles, sambhavami yuge yuge, millennium after millennium. So, in this particular case, Parasurama, Choparam, Choparam, that's what it means. Choparam appeared to rectify the irreligious behavior of Kartavirya, Arjuna, and his Kshatriya, the Kshatriyas. And why? Because they were offensive to the Brahmanas. So we have to be careful. The devotees are actually better than Brahmanas, right? Because they automatically imbibe the qualities of a Brahmana. So we should be very careful about committing. And you know, little offence is okay. But major aparad and envy of the devotees, very, very ill-advised to be envious of the devotees. As is demonstrated here. You'll be destroyed eventually. One's bhakti will be destroyed by the you know, the offending the Vaishnavas is called the hati mata offence, you know, the mad elephant offence. So we have to be careful about. You know, in the beginning, a devotee like Jamanagni, he tolerated the fact that they stole his cow. Yeah, it's okay, it's just a small offence. Right? But then when they killed Jamanagni, and Parasurama was told, you know, don't worry about the fact that they stole the cow. But they killed his father, who was an advanced devotee. He was very qualified devotee. And so then Parasurama had to act to maintain religious principles. And that's why initially he was told, don't be, you know, restrain yourself. But eventually he killed the Kshatriyas 21 times and is glorified for doing that because the Kshatriyas became too proud. And then, as a result of the pride, wanted to steal the property of the Brahmanas. Right? And then all hell broke loose after that. So one has to be very respectful of the Brahmanas, respectful of the devotees. Because if one disrespects, then the Bhagavatam, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, even the Bhagavad Gita demonstrates what happens if one is offensive to the Brahmanas or envious of the Brahmanas. One will have to suffer the consequences as a result. They may tolerate for some time, but eventually, because it's part of religiosity, it's part of religious principles, that one be respectful to the Vaishnavas. Right? Very interesting. So, yeah. Well, so it's interesting here, actually. Parasurama is instructed, killing a king who's an emperor is more sinful than killing a Brahmana. Right? Because that's what Parasurama did. So he's warned, don't kill the king, it's worse than killing a Brahmana. But then after they killed Jamadagni, they killed a Brahmana, that's obviously more, that's far more serious. Because in killing the Brahmana, you're killing the whole of Brahminical culture. You're killing the head of society, and so degrading everybody effectively. And so a stand had to be made in order to maintain religious principles. Okay, so I think that's about it. Any comments or questions? Tips on offending Brahmanas or not offending Brahmanas?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Why the king is higher than the Brahmana? Because the king is a Kshatriya. So, what is the reason?
Well, in this case, it's qualified by a king who's an emperor, right? So, and the word here is murdha abhishiktasya. Let's look up the word for word to see what that means. Murdha, head, that's the head, right? Abhishiktasya, abhishiktas. So that's two words. We need a Brahmana, a real Brahmana. Huh? Let's have a look. Let's see if we can find out what that means. We need Gopa here. Right? But, just hang on. If there's a shortage of Brahmanas, we ask perplexity. Pretty cool. Here. The term murdha bhishiktasya refers to someone who has had the head anointed, usually as part of a royal consecration ceremony, such as the installation of a king or monarch. So, blessed by the Brahmanas, anointed as the representative of God. And in the previous verses mentioned, Prabhupada says, the representative of the demigods, right? So, in that consecrated and blessed position, he's the protector of the Brahmanas. He's the protector of Brahminical culture. So killing the king is like killing a Brahmana, right? Or here it said, Jamadagni says, more serious than killing a Brahmana, right? So, it adds a little nuance to the relationship between Kshatriyas and Brahmanas. And a qualified Kshatriya will be blessed by the Brahmanas and will be a Raja Rishi, will be an elevated person themselves, ideally, right? And we see that in the character of Yudhishthira and Arjuna and Bhima, and they were saintly kings. And we see in the character of Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana the opposite. right? Comment, Arjun?
Referring to head.
The head. Murta's the head. Yeah, that bit I got. But Abhishiktasya. Shiktasya means anointed. Yeah, anointed. That means Abhishek, right? Abhishiktasya. Abhishek is there in that word. So he's been... Interesting, huh? Vedic culture, pretty far out. If you want to, appoint someone, honour someone, do an abhishek, pour things on them. That's kind of like the, the haldi ceremony. You pour things on the bride and the groom to purify, sanctify, and to ordain. You're the chosen one. For my daughter, you're the chosen one. Right? For my son, you're the chosen one. Nice culture when you think about it. Yeah. And of course, the symptom of the Brahmanas is that surrender to Krishna, from which then all sinful reactions they're freed from all of those reactions. Bhakti sir, what's your thoughts? Nothing. No thoughts, huh? Zach? Any thoughts?
I was thinking about that section in the purport that said that when you surrender to Krishna, then all the sins are removed.
Yes.
And it makes sense, you surrender to Krishna,
Yep.
but sometimes you don't feel like that your sins are removed.
You don't feel like surrendering?
No, you don't feel that your sins are removed.
That's your humility. Or, yes, that's, it's mentioned in the disciple course that the guru relieves the disciple of all of their sins at initiation, right? But how come, the next day we wake up and we've still got the same stuff floating around in our head? Right? Why is that? And Prabhupada says the reason why that is because of conditioning. We've been in the material world for so long that even after initiation, there's still a residue of contamination. And so we have to chant Hare Krishna. And also to support that, we worship the deity. And so Prabhupada says there's the process of bhakti, especially for those following Rupa Goswami and the Chaitanya Vaishnavas, simultaneously with the chanting and the preaching is the Pancharatrika Vidhi, deity worship, right? They go together. And so Mangalati, greet the deities, even the puja that we do for the deities is purifying. And so that removes that residual contamination, along with the chanting of Hare Krishna. And that provides a very powerful combination of devotional service, effectively, that purifies that. And why it's so important not to commit offences. Because if offences are committed, they create turbulence, they create obstacles, they create blockages in our progression and in our movement forward, progressive devotional service. So it's because of conditioning that we find ourselves still not making any advancement, apparently, right? But that residue of past karmas is actually being burnt up at a very rapid rate, right? So if you were to look back at ZAC 2018, right, the version of ZAC 2018 compared to ZAC 2025, right, even though there may be some residue still, the amount of advancement that you've made in that period of time is you're light years away from where you were. What were you doing in 2018? Year 12. Gosh, that's only 7 years ago. Not long ago, right? When did you move into the ashram? What year? 2021. Okay. So 2021, you're doing the same thing as now, right? And you felt the impact of living in the association of devotees, right? But now you think, oh no, I'm not really making any advancement. Is that right? Kind of. That's how we feel. I'm not really making any advancement. But Prabhupada gives the example of flying in a Airbus 380. When you look at all of the other passengers on the plane, we're all going in the same. We're all travelling together at the same speed. And we look out, and it doesn't look like we're going very far, right? You think, you get over Bali, right, on your way to Singapore, and think, oh no, still got 3 hours to go to get to Singapore, right? Oh God, this is taking forever. But hop out the plane and see what's actually happening, how fast you're going, and how elevated you are. Right, so we become very familiar with our circumstances, and we think, oh, I'm not really making any advancement. And these devotees, they're all just ordinary people, right? And we become too familiar, right? Without realising that we're all, screaming back home, back to Godhead at a rapid rate that immeasurable. Actually, the speed at which we're making spiritual advancement. If we moksha, what is it? Sarvadhamam parityaja. Yeah. Mahatmaji, how are you this morning?
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I wanted to ask, as you said, the offences are there, conditioning, so many things. But how to improve our chanting? That is the main question.
How to improve your chanting? Yeah. Listen.
We are trying to listen.
Listen.
Still, the mind goes.
Well, what does Krishna say? Bring it back. Yes, the mind wanders. Keep bringing it back. Right? The mind will never stop. Just in case you think it will, it's never going to stop. So what we've got to do is give it something better to think about. So that's what the chanting is for. Pure. How? When the mind wanders, again, that's why I said listen to the sound of the mantra. That's how you bring it back. Loud? Why not? although, loud or not, my experience is loud chanting is good, but sometimes even loud chanting in the mind wanders. Right? So you've got to, it's exasperating. But that's what, Aniruddha means that who can't be stopped. And Aniruddha is the Lord of the mind. Right? So, one thing, what is it? Rake Krishna Mare Krishna Rake Ke. Right? If Krishna wants to protect you, nobody can touch you. Right? And if Krishna wants to kill you, nobody can protect you. Right? So, in order to get Krishna's protection, we have to continually bring the mind back. And Krishna says how to do that. Shanai uparamed. Steadily. Right? And so, chanting loudly, chanting softly, whatever works for you. Yes.
Would it be our attraction to Krishna is not strong? Attraction to Krishna is not so strong. The name, holy name.
In your case, no. Your attachment to Krishna is very strong.
Thank you.
We know that.
I hope.
No, we know. We see you keep coming here every day. If your attachment to Krishna is not very strong, then you don't do that. And you like to chant. Right, so we see in the symptoms of devotees, even though they say, I'm not a devotee, their activities give them away. Right? They reveal themselves. They say, I'm not a devotee. Well, what do you keep on putting tilak on for? Why do you keep chanting Hare Krishna?
False ego, humility, be not humble.
Huh? What's that?
Not humble and meek. False ego stops us.
Chanting Hare Krishna because of false ego.
Yeah. False ego is trying to
You can't do that. Won't last. So somebody who continues chanting, even despite all disturbances of the mind, is eligible for Krishna's mercy in due course of time, right? Confirmed by the mobile phone. See you later. Not important. So, improve the chanting. And well, Rupa Goswami gives the advice that our lack of taste for chanting is a result of ignorance, avidya, right? Ignorance and the holy name is our medicine, right? And as in a jaundiced person who takes sugar candy as a cure for the jaundice, when they take the sugar candy, it tastes bitter because of the illness, because of the ignorance, right? The chanting, even though the chanting of Hare Krishna is very sweet, sometimes when we chant, it tastes bitter. And that's due to the conditioning of ignorance, right? Avidya. So, the cure for ignorance is to chant the holy name. Right? Krishna Surya Sam Maya Haya Andaka. Yahan Krishna Tahan Mayi. What is it? Maya Adhika. Yeah. So, Krishna is like the sun, pure and enlightening. Only when we're like, at 4 o'clock in the morning, somebody turns on the light. And we go, oh, turn off the light. Right? We like our ignorance. So that's why we associate with the devotees, why we read the Bhagavatam, why we read the Bhagavad Gita, why we chant Hare Krishna, Kirtan, all of those things, is to get rid of ignorance, right? To bring in the light. So we stay in the association of the devotees, we keep chanting, we maintain our determination. Not easy, right? Not easy, but we keep doing it. That's a measure of a devotee, that we keep doing those things, basically. What is it? Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, Murti Seva, Maturavas, right? Which means live in a holy place. And that's what we do here. In fact, all of those things we do at the temple. That's why the temple is such a desirable place, right? You can do it at home, true, right? And we should. We should be satisfied chanting Hare Krishna anywhere. But we all know the value and the benefit of this little space here. Right? That's why, there are devotees who say, we want a temple, give us a temple. You've got a temple, how come we can't have a temple? Right? Come on, cough up. Because we all value the mind. But having said that, you can do it at home as well. Right? You invite your friends around, chant Hare Krishna. Wherever you chant Hare Krishna, if you're chanting without offense, you're not in you're not in the material world anymore, you're in Vaikuntha. So that's what we do. If we can't be with the devotees, we ring them up. Hey, come over to my place. Kirtan, bit of puja, Bhagavad Gita, and prasadam. Right? I say, you're right, we'll be right over. Just now coming. Right? Which is our Bhaktivedanta program. Right? Powerful. And in that company, that's how we make advancement, chanting Hare Krishna. Right? Yeah. Okay, I think it's time to take prasadam. Breakfast time. Anandam buddhi vardhanam, pratipadam purnam ritas vardhanam. Right? The nectar for which we're always anxious. The chanting of Hare Krishna. Or prasadam. Which is interesting, isn't it? You see, there's the holy name, there's the deity, there's the devotees, there's the Bhagavatam, prasadam, they all come together. Right? They all come together. Okay, Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Hare Krishna.